Life expectancy in South Africa has dropped by a noteworthy 3.5 years. This is the first decline in nearly 2 decades, and the number of deaths don't paint a pretty picture either. Almost 700,000 people died over the last year, numbers last seen at the height of the HIV pandemic. Let's discuss this with Diego Iturralde, who is with Stats SA. Diego, thank you so much for your time. So life expectancy dropping to 59.3 years for men and 64.6 years for women. What was the expectancy before?
Good afternoon. The life expectancy last year in 2020 was 65.5 years overall, that being 68.4 for females and 62.4 for males.
So my understanding is we have about 180,000 excess deaths that were recorded over the past year. Based on that, how many were due to COVID-19 percentage-wise?
Well, we understand from the research that has been performed by the Medical Research Council that about 80 to 85% of those excess deaths are COVID-related. So these can be directly attributed to COVID-19, as well as indirect deaths as well due to measures linked to the lockdown.
And in terms of mortality, what's the proportion for males and females?
Well, let me answer you like this. The death notification forms that we have received have not yet been processed for the current year. So for the moment, we understand that the distribution of deaths around COVID is mostly female, but this is a space that we still need to research a bit further.
What's going to take, Diego, for life expectancy in the country to revert to previous levels?
Well, I think most importantly is to ensure that the vaccine rollout program is successful, and if we can reach herd immunity by next winter, I think that will be a great achievement. I don't think that the recovery will be dramatic overnight from 1 year to the next, but that it may take a few years, 3 to 4 years, for us to recover to the levels that we last saw in 2020. And I think that applies to all facets related to mortality or to COVID-19, whether it be mortality or migration or fertility or any aspect of our population or our socioeconomic background that has been impacted by COVID-19.
Yeah, and looking at the record of excess deaths that's been reported, is this the highest we've seen in the longest of time, I imagine?
Well, we haven't really looked at excess deaths in the past because there was never a shock to the system like COVID-19. So what the excess deaths really are the deaths reported on the National Population Register on a week-by-week basis, and it's compared to a baseline based on 2018 and 2019. So I think that what COVID-19 has shown is that the 695,000 expected or estimated deaths that we see from July last year to now are about the same as what we saw in 2006 in the peak of the HIV epidemic. And if we have a look at other measures, we've spoken of life expectancy. Our life expectancy today is more or less what we had back in 2011. And if we look at a third measure, the crude death rate, we see that the crude death rate, which is basically the number of deaths divided by the population per thousand, has increased by 2.9 deaths per thousand in the last year alone. And that also is taking us back towards the time of around 2011 and 2012.